Welcome to Mindful Mondays, 5 Factors of Steadying the Mind. Today we're going to explore what are the elements that increase our focus, our steadiness of the mind. And there's a saying that I'm going to quote: going down to a river that is flooded and turbulent, if you are swept away by the current, how can you help others cross? And that idea that our mind, we've explored a little bit today, our experiences, our longings for stability and what that means for us. And we've brought forward ideas like equanimity, being less reactive, a sense of having the ability to act or respond to things external to us rather than react. And I think those are all really important elements. And someone brought up the whole idea about the amygdala, which many of us have probably heard is the part of our brain that hijacks emotions. And part of that is our negativity bias that our ancestors developed. And they developed the negativity bias in order to survive. It's the product of our evolution in very harsh conditions. And so the brain automatically scans for bad, or what we call negative things. And then it focuses on it. And the amygdala is this part of the brain that is geared to set off alarms. Alarm, alarm. And then when the amygdala goes off, it releases cortisol. And the hippocampus, which does the opposite of the amygdala, becomes weaker when we've got the cortisol, the adrenaline flowing through our body. So we talk, some of this research is based on Rick Hanson's work, who some of you may be familiar with. And he talks about how do we turn our yearning, our longing for a stability of the mind and heart and body into reality. And for sure, practice is part of it. But what he suggests is that just having the experience does not always lead to the consistent learning. So as a long lifetime adult learner, and I guess as a child somewhat, that I really, by adding this knowledge and understanding, and some of us have been working together for months, and we know that, and some of you have been practicing like I have for years, and we know that practice helps. And when we add the knowledge around positive neuroplasticity and what that means in our neural networks, we can turn what might be passing states into what Rick Hanson calls lasting traits. So part of why I wanted to share this today is because we do these practices together each week, and yet we don't always understand what we're doing. And as I was doing the research for this, I really felt like I was having a deeper understanding, and it's really strengthened my practice. So I wanted to share it with you. The idea of just imposing this kind of veneer of positive thinking on top of the genetic negative bias isn't really helpful. And sometimes I've tried to do that, like positive thinking. But underneath there's this kind of worry or fear that kind of rises up. And so what some of the new studies are showing is that there's 3 steps. And we've been doing them all, but we haven't been doing them with the actual consistent knowledge of what we're doing, which is building, increasing our neural networks, substrates, and plasticity to allow for more stability. So there's 3 areas that Rick Hanson talks about. 1, we have the positive experience. So this could be in your practice or in your daily life. So you know how when we sit in meditation, especially in a guided meditation, we might consciously bring up the awareness of a sense of being cared about, a sense of caring for others. So when that happens and we turn our attention and focus on it and allow the felt sense of it, which is step 2, we can shift it from a working memory of short-term over to the long-term memory. And that's a significant shift in turning ourselves consistently to not just putting positive on top of negative, but actually rewiring our brains. The second part is that to really integrate it into the body, a felt sense. Some of you are familiar with focusing, which was started by Eugene Genlin and another priest many years ago. And they really talked about being with our bodies in a more consistent way to feel and expand your felt sense of what's actually occurring. And when we do our guided meditation shortly, you'll really have a sense of that. And I'm sure over the time that we've been meditating together and your own practice, you will have noticed that felt sense in the body. So when that happens, the hippocampus and the amygdala and other parts of the brain are working together to allow that felt sense to emerge more strongly. And then finally, the third area, so positive experience, body, feeling, felt sense, and the third area is focus. So the focus consistently into what is positive or meaningful in our lives, and to learn to sustain this, it allows the dopamine and oxytocin to be released. So think for a moment about why stability is important to you. Stability of the mind, the emotions, the body. Why do you practice in this kind of way at all? Why do you explore it? How is it helpful? And what do you want to grow inside yourself? Some of you shared some of that earlier, that sense of equanimity. And is there a part that you want to heal or need to heal through this? And as part of this process of growing into increased stability that many of us have been doing for some time, do you need to let go of anything? So we talked about that reactivity of the mind. Can we set the intention to let go of that reactivity? So those are the three areas that we've been practicing, and then thinking about setting our intention. And we're going to integrate this into a practice in just a moment. But first, I want to bring forward the 5 factors. I've got this written out. If anyone ends up wanting it, feel free to ask me. This will be available for people who came here today, but I'm not going to make it a public thing. So 5 factors: intention, ease of the body, wholeheartedness, safety, and gratitude. So I'm going to go through those specifically, and then we're going to practice an integrated whole guided meditation. So you know how when we start to focus, the first one is intention. And when we start to focus, we might choose any object. So let's just think of the breath. And when you sit down to practice, how you might focus on the breath, and you might keep saying to yourself after 3 or 5 or 10 seconds, when the mind wanders off to something else, you might say, come back, pay attention. We talk about stewarding our focus back with our intention. So that's called a top-down intention. Come back, return to the present moment. So when we do the top-down intention under focus, that engages the prefrontal cortex, which of course includes executive functions. But there's something called willpower fatigue, because we can become tired of saying to ourselves, come back to here. What's my intention today? Come back to the present moment. We have to keep telling ourselves to do things over and over again. So we're looking at intention and the focus, and a top-down intention. Within focus, we can also do a bottom-up intention. And that's when we engage our emotions, our sensations of the body, the felt sense. So it increases a more fundamental neural structure when we do this. So we're not going to do this now, but we're going to do this in our meditation, imagining someone who we know and might admire who's very stable, like the Dalai Lama, for example, who practices 4 hours every day of a meditation, and the things that he has dealt with, and how he still brings a sense of equanimity, stability, presence to all his interactions. That's an example of someone one could admire, that I admire tremendously. There are others. There might be someone in your personal life who you think, wow, that person's really stable and steady. When we bring this person forward in our minds and imagination, we can allow the feeling in the body. That's a bottom-up intention that allows us to experience our intention with a focus. So then we don't have to keep saying, pay attention, come back here, get the mind back here. You know, sometimes it's like a puppy, right? Jack Kornfield talks about a puppy. You have to keep training the puppy with gentleness. When we do it from a bottom-up intention, the felt sense, then we don't get the willpower fatigue that top-down needs. Both can be valuable. One is not more important than the other. 5 factors: intention and easing the body. So we know that many of us are wired in our central nervous system to be stressed. We might do too much. We might get ourselves overwhelmed. We might have stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline being dropped into the body. If we think of the negative bias that we're hardwired to experience, finding danger, it makes sense that many of us have that feeling of stress and danger. We might continually put ourselves in that mode of alert. Part of this work here, in order to stabilize the mind, the body, the emotions, is about allowing the whole central nervous system to be calm by reducing our stress hormones. And one of the key things around this is extending the exhalation and the inhalation. There's a ton of research. I just finished a book called Breathe, and they looked at all this research across the globe on breathing and what it means. And what they came up with was 5.5 breaths is key to allowing physiologically the in-breath and out-breath to be connected in the body. So we might there's practices of breathing 4, 8, 12. You've probably heard those. There's lots of different ways of breathing, but this book proclaims that 5.5 seconds of breathing, and we'll add that today, is somehow the key element that allows us to increase our stability. So what I did for myself was I timed 5.5 seconds, and then I do 5 breaths. You can do 4 breaths in 5.5 seconds, but by expanding your inhalation and expanding your exhalation, that is key to easing the body. So intentions, top down, bottom up, easing your body, expanding breath, and wholeheartedness. That's the third thing. So by having warm feelings is a way to soothe and rest us. Because when 60,000 years ago, our ancestors were hardwired to live in small tribes and small groups. And if they were ostracized for not being part of the group, that was death. They couldn't live unless they stayed in their tribe. So when we need warm, soothing feeling, that's part of our equanimity. We need to have enough close people in our lives that we feel cared for and we care for others. And that is what releases the oxytocin, which is released by the hypothalamus. And that occurs when we feel close and loving with others. So we're going to use that part of our imagination today. And then when the prefrontal cortex receives the oxytocin, our anxiety decreases and our stability of attention increases. So there's 2 more elements we're going to talk about before we bring this into practice. The 4th one is feeling safer. We think of the negativity bias. We might stay more in fear and threats than feeling safe. And this is connected biochemically and through the nature of our brains. But this kind of stress where we're feeling fearful wears us down, as we know. We become anxious or depressed. When we're anxious or depressed, you can imagine the cortisol and adrenaline flooding through our system. Then our attention skitters around, blah, 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 blah. Then we're scanning the world for more fearful things, so it builds on top of each other's. So by shifting our attention over and over again to when you feel safe and connected, and away from when you feel fearful or anxious, then we shift these passing states into permanent traits. Slowly, slowly over time. Most of you have had enough practice that you know this to be true, right? The final one I'm going to talk about is feeling grateful. And this is a little bit more complex because we know, I don't know about you, but I've done gratitude lists for years and then I don't do them. I'm like, does it make any difference? But what research is showing us is that when we activate the neural substrates of working memory, which includes our prefrontal cortex, there's a kind of gateway that is closed when we are focusing on one thing. And when this gateway is open, we have this flood of new experiences. Sometimes an open gateway is helpful, but we want to be able to choose. So steadiness of the mind means managing this gateway in the prefrontal cortex. And this gateway is regulated by dopamine. You all have heard of it, I'm sure. The neurochemical that tracks expectations or experiences of reward. When we look at it, active addiction, we're seeking that dopamine hit. Someone told me recently there's 237 12-step programs in the world. I was astonished. So for sure, we know alcohol and drugs are a common one, but there's a whole bunch of additional ones: sex, love, work, shopping, gambling, lots and lots of them. So we get ongoing dopamine hits. And so when we have some choice over that, the gate stays closed in our prefrontal cortex and we can concentrate more easily and have stability of the mind. So the dopamine activity decreases when things are less rewarding. And that opens the gateway to distracting stimuli, that skittering mind of busyness and anxiety. So gratitude, which is part of this thing, is when we allow gratitude into our felt sense, into our consciousness, into our imagination every day, we can do what Tara Brach calls tend and befriend our emotions. Then we can allow ourselves to become more steady. So these 5 factors, our Western research is showing us, are important to consider when we're looking at stability of the mind, heart, the mind, the emotions, and the body. So is there any questions? Maybe we should use the chat if you have any questions, because I'm recording this. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask before we move into practicing and integrating what we've just talked about? Feel free to put them in the chat. I just wrote any questions so that you won't be on the video. Okay. So we're going to do a longer sit now, integrating all the things I've just talked about. So invite yourself to come into a comfortable seated position. Take a moment or so if you need to lie down, if you need to sit cross-legged on your meditation bench, or on your chair or couch. Allow your eyes to close if that's comfortable for you, or drop them down softly to the ground. Drop in to your interior self a little bit more. And the invitation today is to establish a conscious intention to stabilize and steady the mind, body. State that intention to yourself. I am steadying the mind, body. Repeat that over and over softly in your mind to yourself. Now slow down the breath. Expand your awareness to include the lengthening in breath and a lengthening exhale. Have a sense as best you can of settling into this body, softening. Feel an awareness of your feet, maybe softening the soles of your feet. Feeling your legs, the bones in your legs. Maybe noticing the joints of your knees. Feeling your buttocks, your hips, your pelvis. Have an awareness of your lower back, mid back, and upper back. Maybe if it feels right, lengthening the spine and dropping the shoulders. Have a sense of becoming alert and aware as you stay tuned into the body. Awareness of the depth and substance of your belly. Without judgment, just with awareness. Feeling all your digestive organs. And then moving up with your awareness on the next exhale to the diaphragm and the ribs. Conscious of breathing, conscious of body, awareness of intention. Tuning into the heart and the lungs as you breathe in and breathe out. Feeling awareness of the shoulders and arms, the hands and the palms of the hands. Awareness of the air on your skin, the clothing. Tuning both inside the body and outside the body simultaneously. Tuning in on the next exhale, moving your awareness up to the collarbones, the throat, the neck. Moving awareness up to the jaws, softening, releasing the jaws, feeling the tongue heavy, the teeth, the gums, feeling the whole body soften and ease as you move your awareness up through the lips to the nostrils, where you tune in for just a moment to the breathing in, breathing out. Awareness of body and breath. As you move with your awareness up through the cheekbones, to the eyes, softening around the eyes, the eyeballs heavy in the sockets. Forehead soft. Scalp, hair, and ears. And then feel the entire body, the whole body. And as you breathe in, feel the entire body breathing. When the mind wanders, which we all will notice from time to time, with a gentle focus of intention, bringing it back to the body, back to the breath. Now, as you're ready, we're going to shift to imagining someone who you know or are aware of, who is very stable, very steady, who has equanimity perhaps, or some layers of equanimity. Could be someone you know personally. It could be someone like the Dalai Lama. Just imagine and bring this person to your mind. Really bring a felt sense of that person forward to your mind and your heart. Allowing the feeling of steadiness, equanimity to radiate throughout your body as you think of this person. And now, as you're ready, on the next out breath, let this person dissolve in your awareness and shift your focus to someone who you deeply care about. It can be a person, it can be another being, like a dog or a cat. A simple, easy relationship of caring and warmth. And imagine this person or being in front of you in your mind's eye. And radiate your caring toward them. Perhaps it's a vision of light towards this being or person, or maybe it's a sense in your whole body that you're offering. Maybe there's words that come forward. Let yourself feel what it's like to deeply care about another person or another being. And let those feelings of caring for another radiate throughout the entire body, throughout your emotions, and as best you can, keeping this focus, this intention steady for the next moment or so. Now, slowly on your next out breath, release the vision of this person, the sense of this person in your mind's eye. Just allow them to dissolve. Now, tune into someone who really cares about you. As simple a relationship as you can. What does it feel to be cared about? Maybe it's the same person, maybe it's someone different. Allowing the sense of being deeply cared for to radiate throughout your body, throughout your mind, throughout your heart. Maybe if it feels right, add a little half smile to your lips. Receiving care, receiving warmth. And then on your next out breath, let this person in your mind's eye who is radiating caring towards you, or this being, Let them dissolve in your awareness. And come back to your own body, your own emotions, your own thoughts, your own breath. And expand your sense of being safe right here, right now. You are safe emotionally, you're safe physically. Feel a sense of safety and warmth radiating throughout the body, throughout the heart and emotions, and throughout the thoughts. Just for this moment, I am safe. Now, I want you to become aware of any fears or anxieties, worries, or concerns that are in your mind right now, or your heart, or your body. Fear of the future, fear of pain, fear of aging, fear of some part in your life, fear for someone else, concern or worry. Just kind of become aware of those, if there are any, niggling kind of awarenesses of fears, worries, concerns. Acknowledge them. And then allow them to just dissolve for now and come back to the breath. You're not pushing them away, but you're letting go of having to guard them or fear for them. Instead, open yourself more deeply to reassurance, to feeling a sense of calmness and care, breath, allowing yourself to rest deeply in the sense of wholeness, of spaciousness, of ease, of equanimity. And now to close, we're going to, before we open our eyes, I'm going to invite you to find one or more things in your life that you feel grateful for and to really feel into them. It can be a simple thing, perhaps a roof over your head, or maybe food or the right kind of food, or maybe something like being cared about or loved, or someone who's helped you recently, or maybe the beauty of nature, or perhaps the gift of life itself. Just choosing one or two things and really invite the feeling of gratitude to wash over your body, to wash over your thoughts and emotions. allowing your whole being to feel the gratitude, maybe gladness and happiness, not ignoring other feelings that might arise, like frustration or worries, anxiety, depression about something, just noticing them and returning your attention to feelings of gratitude as best you can. Allowing yourself to rest in an easy flow of being present right here, conscious of the gifts of gratitude, allowing that deep felt sense of being whole, relaxed, at ease. And then slowly, slowly, maybe wiggling your feet, moving your fingers or hands. Become aware of the room around you, and as you're ready, opening your eyes, tuning into your own physical space, maybe looking around you, maybe out the window. And then as you're ready, tuning back into here. And then making a connection